Oh, g'day everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Weekend Wrap brought to you by Crowcast, of course. If I look like I need a drink, it's because I've got two of the most technologically and amazing people here. And I actually swore in the intro, which I don't reckon I've ever done in my life. So apologies for being late, but we got there in the end. So without any further ado, let's crack in, shall we? Oh, and the bloody thing didn't play. Oh, god damn. Even the intro didn't play. Never mind. How are you guys? Macca, how are you?
Good, very good.
Now, we've got a cast of thousands tonight, so I'll do a little bit of an intro, and it's good that it's still pre-season because it means that we can mess around with this a little bit and just get things sorted for the main season. So introduce you to Brownie. How you going, Brownie?
Yeah, good, mate.
Very good. Brownie's a long-time friend of mine and a long-suffering Crow supporter like the rest of us, and he's finally succumbed to my ongoing pressure and is joining the podcast. So welcome, mate, and thanks for coming along.
Thanks, mate. Looking forward to it.
And Big Man's back again because we love him. How you going, mate?
Thanks, Fee. Appreciate the kind words.
Well, you know, should have heard me 5 minutes ago, shouldn't they? Now, look, I hope everything's working on YouTube. Blink twice on YouTube if it's not working. And I hope people can hear us on Discord. I'm pretty sure people can hear us on Discord. And it's going to be an interesting one tonight. We hear it all. Oh, shit. All right. So, of course, there's no Crows match to talk about this week. So I thought what we would do is just spend a bit of time. We'll quickly talk about the results so Macca's happy of the two games that actually happened. And then we'll have a bit of a discussion about where we think we sit in terms of round one. And I've got this is a groundbreaking podcast because I've got another little piece of technology here I'm going to try out, so it could all go to shit. It could be the worst podcast we've ever done, but you know, that's why it's the pre-season. We try these things. So without any further ado, Mac, why don't we just get into your results, shall we?
Okay, mate. Well, we've had just the two games. Firstly, it was opening round. I mean, God's sake, who has bloody opening round and then has round one? The AFL. Bloody stupid.
Total arse, isn't it? It's total arse. I hate
Well,
it.
it is a total arse because, I mean, I've not met one person out there in the public, the football fraternity who follow these games who actually likes opening round. I think it is absolutely stupid. It's a reflection of the idiocy of the two main characters that run the game, who I have no respect for at all. And anyhow, it was going to be a farce. It got turned into an absolute fiasco because of the weather. So now we've got a situation that we're going to have not only an opening round, and before we have a round one, but when we have the last game around 23, we're going to have a round 24. So, I mean, it's absolutely because of the fact of the cyclone and the weather effects that go with that cyclone. So, you know, it's why don't they just program a bloody season like normal that we all like? It just
doesn't make any sense.
I don't know anybody that likes it. So I just hope that they do learn their idiocy and change it. Look, we had the two games that did happen, and the Sydney Hawthorn game was a pretty good game. I have to say, I thought Hawthorn were good last year. The question mark, could they actually stay at that level or even perhaps improve on that level? And I think the answer is very clearly that they improved on that level. They actually improved pretty well.
Are the Swans that good?
Well, the Swans, were up there as one of the very, very leading teams last year. So now they might not be quite as good this year. but they if you're going to take last year as your starting point, I'd say the Swans have gone backwards. Meat absolutely destroyed Grundy in the ruck, absolutely destroyed him. But the two guys that they brought in Battle and Barras in defence. And the beauty of that is they are very, very good defenders. And that also releases James Sicily to be a loose man in defence or to go up forward. And he did both during that game. And I thought he had quite an influence on the game. And Will Day, of course, who we didn't want. We took Fisher Mackesy instead, and that was a great move, that one. But Will Day was outstanding, and it is unbelievable, isn't it? You got this guy in your backyard. You could actually pick him up. He's going to turn into a bloody champion, but no, we take a bloke who doesn't like playing. That's very clever. So in that particular game, it was interesting because Hawthorn looked a better team for the first half. There's no doubt about that. Sydney, Warner absolutely inspired him in the third quarter. They put out 5 goals on the trot, and I thought, they're going to run all over them. But
you don't need to take too long on this, mate, by the way.
No, I'm just going to finish off by saying that then Hawthorn actually showed that they are going to be a classy team, and they put them to the sword and got the last 5 goals of the match and never looked like losing. So I think out of that we got that Hawthorn are going to be pretty good. Sydney will be around the place, but I don't think they're going to be quite as good as last year. The next game, which today's game, GWS and Collingwood, well, simply GWS doubled Collingwood's score, and that's in spite of them, Cameron being outstanding in the ruck. GWS, they are definitely going to be up there again this year. They have a very good, pretty even team, but they got some stars in that even team. Callahan, who, I think he's going to blossom this year. Kelly is always good in the midfield. So they were far too good. They give Collingwood a hiding, and interesting thing was that GWS ran the game out very, very strongly. Collingwood had players cramping all over the place, and in particular young Josh Dacos. He was cramping in the third quarter very, very badly. So
it's been quite a bit of that.
Well, it's very humid up there, and it's very, very hot, and they're not just used to those conditions. So I'll finish on that note just by saying that I was very, very impressed with GWS, and I don't know that Collingwood are going to be that good just going on that particular effort.
Yeah, no, that's probably a fair summary, Mac. Collingwood are an interesting one because their side hasn't changed much.
Sorry, which one are you talking about?
Collingwood. Their team hasn't changed much, and yet they look a bit like a shadow of their former selves.
Yeah, they certainly didn't. They didn't fire properly today. There's no doubt about that. Yet they had a dominant ruck, which was I think that's a good start. But no, and really, I think, as I say, Josh Dacos didn't have a great influence on the game because he was tagged pretty well, pretty tightly. His brother did much better than he did. I just didn't like what I saw of Collingwood. It was Nick Dacos who had the cramp. Yeah, I was aware of that. But I said his brother Josh played well. That's about it, Payne?
Yeah, that's about it, mate. Well done. Congratulations. That's your 15 minutes.
That wasn't 15.
Oh, very good. Brownie, what did you think about the weekend? Have you watched any of the footy?
Yeah, I didn't see a lot of Hawthorn, although I saw a little bit, and I thought they looked, like, considering the conditions, they looked pretty switched on. But I did see a fair bit of a Collingwood game, and I thought they had a lot of opportunity. I thought that Brown, that I don't know much about, he had a heap of opportunities. If he could mark the ball, he could have kicked 5 or 6. I think he got a couple. He just kept getting his hands on the ball and dropping it. But I thought, they could have won by more for sure. They were pretty impressive. And Collingwood, the only thing I would say about Collingwood is it is only round 1, so you don't want to jump to too many conclusions after one round.
Correct.
Thoughts, big man?
Yeah, I think that once Dacos, like he pulled up short in a chase, and then he got cramped not long after that. And they are so reliant on him because he's such a gun, but he's such an important part of their ball movement. Once Dacos basically became a non-event, I think they had no chance of getting that lead back. I think obviously got to factor in that Houston was missing. That will help a bit with their transition, but they looked off their feet about halfway through that third quarter. And I mean, the Giants boys, some of them were cramping up too, but gee, they looked fit. And it also reminded me a lot of that game we had against them in round one a couple of years back when we turned up and it was a really humid day and we just got overrun by them. So look, to be fair, they train in those conditions, whereas obviously Collingwood don't. But yeah, they look really good. I agree, Macca, that they're definitely in contention. My only issue with the Giants is I think that their list profile and the depth of their list is definitely taking a hit with all the guys that left at the end of last year. So they've already copped one injury with Green. He'll be back soon, thankfully. Briggs, we saw at Briggs today, the backup was Lockie Keefe, which he got destroyed by Darcy Cameron. So I think if they cop a few injuries, they're going to be in a bit of strife, the Giants, but I think their best 18/22 is still really strong.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's probably a fair call. Fair call. I think GWS are going to be really good. I actually expect the Swans to fall away. Transition year for them with the big fella, the big Cox coaching them.
Cox.
Yeah. So, it'll be interesting to see how they go. Anyway, that's enough about that. Let's before we move on, just a little bit of housekeeping. Struggled a bit there. Of course, there's still spots open in the Fantasy League. So if you want to join the Fantasy League, you have to go to the link that's in our Discord, and I'll put it in the description as well. Tipping comp is underway, but I won't talk about the results today because there's only 2 rounds, so who cares about that? Obviously, we are live and interactive, so anytime you guys in the studio audience want to put us out of our misery and have something to say, then feel free to put your hand up. Pardon me, and we'll get you on board. The more the merrier on here, and you can have your say. Don't forget that if you're watching us on YouTube, first of all, apologies for today. But secondly, if you do like what you see, and we do have a lot of good content already and throughout the season, then hit the like and the subscribe button, and you'll be able to get around that. And if you haven't yet, get around the Josh Worrell interview. I don't know, Macca, did you see the Josh Worrell interview that we put up during the week?
No, I didn't, mate. No, I didn't.
Wow. What sort of a podcast participant are you?
A Sunday night one, mate.
Yeah. Well,
I had a listen fee, if that helps.
Yeah, wasn't a bad chat actually. It was pretty good.
No, it was great. He's a very upbeat guy, and I thought it was particularly interesting how he talked about the moving away from Melbourne was the best thing that could have happened to him. It's not something we hear all the time, and I thought that was a good insight into how he felt he was not quite at the maturity required when he came to the system, but he obviously loves Adelaide. He's got he said he's got a place in Prospect, and he's someone when we drafted him, I thought myself, he's a Haileybury College boy, Sandown Dragons. He's a real flight risk, but he's actually been super loyal, and he's obviously climatized really nicely with the group, and he's one of the outgoing guys of the group, which I think is really important too.
Well, I asked him during the interview, I asked him how it went for the Victorian and interstate guys coming over to play for the Crows, considering that to us as fans it represents the state. It's the old. Really, it started off as a state of origin team, so there's a huge amount of state parochialism, entwined in the fan base, and whether the players from interstate were able to embrace that. And he said absolutely. The first time he walked onto Adelaide Oval, and the crowd got around it and all the rest of it, that was him sold. He was all about it. So that's good to know. All right. So as I said, if anyone's watching on YouTube, don't take tonight's quality as the norm, because we are trying a few things and we've got more people on than we have had in the past. So just coordinating all that's been a bit of a test for all of us. But it is pre-season, so we're allowed to have a bit of a hiccup. All right. Speaking of hiccups, and you guys won't see this because you're all looking at your team screens, but the people on YouTube will see this. We're going to do something. We're going to go through our round 23, our round 1 best 23, and see if we can come to some sort of consensus. So let's treat this as selection committee. It's Thursday night. Macca's had how many reds already? Brownie's already a bottle in. Big man, I don't know. Are you a drinker, big man?
I'd love my red wine and an occasional white as well. So yeah.
Yeah, so we're all into the red. So we're all cheering, and it's Thursday night selection. And what I'm about to put up on screen in a moment, when I get myself sorted, is, where is it? Wrong one, idiot. There we are. This is the first look that people will have had of the software that I've using this year, provided by our sponsor, Want Sport, and it's only a very small fraction of the software. But I thought I'd give it a go and try to use it live while we pick our team, to give everyone just a little bit of a taste of it. Of course, we're very thankful for the sponsorship that we're receiving from Want Sport this year. The analysis software that they've come up with is fantastic, as well as the coaches board, which is what you guys can see there at the moment. There's also a video analysis. You can do track statistics. You can do all sorts of things. It's fantastic. So if you are part of a club, a junior club or an amateur league club, and you want to just get around a little bit more analysis, I'd highly recommend Want Sport. It's at once.sport. Go and have a look. Different tiers of membership, very, very reasonable. So we're going to use that, and hopefully we won't crash everything, Mac. Okay.
We won't, mate.
So let's come to a consensus, and I'll, as I mentioned earlier, guys, if we just pass it around the room. Let's start with our forward line. Matt, can you give me who would be your tools in the forward line? Starting 18, sorry.
Yep. Well, I'm actually going to put, it depends. There's two ways of looking at it. You could have Rankin starting or Rankin in the forward pocket. I'm going to have
a tall forward. So, like, for this
you
to
talk
work,
about just you talk about one position. I thought you meant.
I'll ask a question and you respond appropriately.
Well, I thought you were asking for the forward line.
What I actually said was, who would be your preferred tools in the forward line?
My preferred tools.
Thank you. Good hell.
Well, Phil Thorpe, and I'm going to say Walker.
Phil Thorpe and Walker, and given that Macca didn't throw to the next person, Brownie, what are your thoughts on the tools up forward?
Fogarty, obviously. Walker, Phil Thorpe, and I suppose the fourth guy, Curtin, if they're going to play him as a lead up forward.
Let's just talk about starting. So you want those four on the deck to start off with?
I would, yeah.
So you're going with four tools. Big man, what do you reckon?
I think you always want one of those guys on the bench just so we're not too slow up there. So I'm going to go with Phil Thorpe at full forward, Tex at centre forward, and Fog in a pocket.
Yeah, I agree with that, actually. I agree with that.
Or you could put Phil Thorpe in the pocket and Fog at full forward, either way.
Well, I mean, the actual configuration's probably not such a big deal. But so let's put Riley, Big Riley. This is amazing. How do you spell it? All right, so Big Riley at full forward. And then we've got Tex, you reckon?
I'd Tex a centre half forward, but
Yeah.
your mileage might vary.
No, well, we're the consensus, mate, because I probably wouldn't. I'm a bit the same as you. I wouldn't start. Dan Curtin on the ground. I wouldn't start full tools. I reckon that just might make us a little bit slow. I know Dan's pretty decent in terms of his agility and that, but I would probably just have him off to start off with and have him as the next rotation, because I reckon what we'll end up doing, this is just my personal opinion, what we'll end up doing is we'll end up rotating Walker and Fogarty and Curtin. Brownie, what do you reckon about that?
Yeah, probably most likely.
Because there's been a bit of talk about Curtin getting a run in a midfield spot as well, so he might actually pinch hit up forward occasionally to give Fogarty or Walker a bit of a rest, but he also might get involved in some midfield rotations as well. So
I think
we all happy
potentially.
With the sorry, go on, big man.
I was just going to say, I think wing time could be something he gets a bit of throughout the game. But I agree, predominantly forward. And the beauty of having someone like him on the bench is that whenever, if Tex needs a rest, Curtin comes on. If Fog needs a rest, Tex comes on. And obviously you got Thilthorpe playing as that relief ruckman. So, if we lose Filthy out of the forward line, you still got 3 tools up there because Rob will obviously be on the bench.
All right, so I'm just going to put a question to each of you, like around the room. So, Mako, you start with the answer and then throw it to one of the others. In our heart of hearts, if we're being completely honest, no bias, no counting past performance and all the rest of it, is Tex Walker still in our best 22?
Yes, I think he is. But I think there's going to be times this year where we're going to have to rest him, because I think that for him to have the impact that he is capable of, because he doesn't need a lot of touches to actually cause a lot of havoc. For me, he's still got the brains and he's still got the skill, but I think that I like what Big Man said about the rotation system, and I think that's how it should be. And that means that Tex would probably be only on the ground maybe 2/3 of the time, but maybe less than that. Might be down to sometimes 1/3 to a half. But yes, in my heart, he is still in the best 22.
What do you think, Jeff? Thanks, Maka.
Reckon technically, I think Walker, if he's fit, is in our best 22. The problem I see going forward is his body going to hold up? Part of me thinks if I was the coach, I probably would have encouraged him to retire. I like the look of Fogarty when Walker's not on the ground. I think it's a better mix in the forward line with just one of them. And I think it's the way if we're going to be successful, it's not going to be with Walker. We're not going to win a flag this year. So probably a long-term view, I'll be happier with just Fogarty. But is he in the best 22 at the moment? I think he probably is at his best. What about you, big man? What do you reckon?
I love it.
Thanks, mate. Now, look, I think that's the thing was what I've noticed a bit, particularly in the last few weeks, is that I've seen Fog play further up the ground, probably that role that Tex has played in the past, and Tex has probably played a bit more closer to goal. Which probably suggests there's a bit of a changing of the guard there, that Fog is now probably our true centre forward going forward as well. I do think Tex is still in our best 22. I am seeing a couple of signs of someone that's probably just nearing the end, just obviously the injury stuff and just a little bit with his in his movements at times. But look, he's still so crafty and clever, and I think that with potentially Curtin being another tall forward for us going forward, I think having Tex there for another year just helps bridge the gap, because I don't think Curtin's ready to be, a mainstay key forward for it just yet, because he's only 19. So I think the longer we could hold on to Tex for the better, but it does feel like this is probably the last year.
I don't actually think they see Curtin as the long-term forward option. I think they are dead set keen, given the talk around the club and the comments from blokes like Geordie Dawson, who says he's basically a clone of himself. I think they're very, very keen to have him end up as a big midfielder. He's 2 centimetres taller than Geordie, I think, and a similar build. So I think the forward role for him will be, kind of like a bit of an entree. But I don't think they'll be looking to replace Tex with Curtin. I think they'll be more keen to see someone maybe like Tyler Welsh come on and be Tex.
Well, Toby Murray's another one.
Toby Murray's another one, yeah. I'm the same as you, Brownie. I think Tex, when fully fit, like 2023 Tex, deserves to be almost first picked. The problem is that he's becoming more susceptible to injuries, and we know that the moment that he carries something, he slows down and becomes a liability. He doesn't go for his leads as strongly. He doesn't contest in the air, and he's a liability defensively. So I'm happy to take side on seeing that Tex is fit at the moment, but I hope that they don't persevere with him if he's not 100% fit. All right. So now, Macca, let's talk about the remaining 3 spots in the forward line. Who are you having there?
Yeah, it's trying to squeeze them all in. Well, Neil Bullen is a definite on one half forward flank.
Yep.
And so that you can lock that in. He's there. Now, then we've got a situation really where we've got Keys has got to be there. So he's going to be either a pocket or a half forward flank. And then we've got Rochelle and Rankin who also that can fit into that situation. Now, it could be that Rankin could start off on the ball and that would leave Rochelle in there. But if Rankin's going to start up forward, that will pop Rochelle back onto the bench. So I think that Neil Bullen and Keys, they are locked in for positions. Keys could be half forward, he could be pocket. And as I said, and they may each even rotate with each other, whoever goes there. So I think that's something like that. Keys, Neil Bullen locked in, Rankin or Rochelle in the other situation.
Who are you throwing to, Macca? Anyone?
Oh, sorry, Ben. Sorry. Yeah, I'm throwing to Big Ben.
I'm going to have to look, I agree with the names you're putting out there, Macca. I'm going to say that typically teams do like to run a rotating midfielder as one of the spots. Just so obviously when you have your CBA changes, that one guy can come in, is already started on the ground, goes into the midfield. That guy either comes onto the bench or goes into the forward line, and you swap as well off the bench as well. But so I think a guy like a Peatling type or a Saligo, someone that can play that forward role but then go into the midfield, I think that's someone that they'd probably look at in terms of the starting 18. And that would mean a Keys or Neil Bullen would probably start on the bench, which, to be fair, they'd be unlucky to start on the bench, but it's just semantics, really. And I think Rochelle is definitely one we'd need because I think you need at least those 2 small natural forwards in there. And if Rankin's playing midfield, then I think Rochelle definitely needs to be up there forward.
Who are you throwing?
What do you reckon, Brownie? That's my bad that time. Sorry, I was a bit sluggish on it.
I'll teach you guys, don't worry.
Sorry, Brownie, you go, mate.
No worries, mate. I'm probably a bit with Macca in that I'm having Rankin start every day of the week. This year, I think he's just going to take another leap. No, start on in the midfield. So I'll probably say Keys, Neil Bullen, and Rochelle. But another thing, I'll be hoping that Rochelle. I've been a pretty big critic of Rochelle in the recent years in terms of his disposal, and probably last year a few little issues with his attack on the ball. But I reckon this year might be his breakout year, and I think he might be a bit stronger. he'll probably be a bit more focused after what happened at the end of last year. And I'm really hoping that they give him a few minutes through the midfield because, like you said, I think a couple of weeks ago, he's a ball magnet in the middle, and we just need that change up, a guy that can get the ball out of the centre. It's probably harder to do when Riley's rucking, but when Thilthorpe's in the middle, he's got beautiful hands and he can put it down his throat. So yeah, I'm hoping Rochelle will spend a fair bit of time, a few minutes every quarter in the middle. But I think, yeah, Rochelle, Keys and Neil Bullen would be my small.
Makes me laugh that you called me Fiend instead of Boss. I'm probably the same. I reckon Ranks is definite first CBA starter. I'd like to see him become part of that, like a very solid part of that rotation. I think it's obvious that Neil Bullen is going to be 90% forward. I don't even think that I've seen him attend a centre bounce yet in pre-season.
Yeah.
So permanent half forward, I think.
Yeah, I will say, Rochelle, they had a little scratch match on last Friday night, or the Friday morning, and Rochelle got a few CBAs in that game. So it's definitely something they're going to be looking at. Whether it's a heap, I don't think so, but he's definitely in the mix.
Yeah. And Benny Keys, I think, is... it looks like Benny Keys has got to work out where he fits now. Obviously... I felt, and we spoke about this last week, didn't we? That we, for a while there, we looked a little bit lacking defensively coming out of our forward line. Like the ball was leaking out. We weren't getting blokes to the feet of the pack or the crumbs. We saw some beautiful crumbing work from the Giants today. They had it all going on. And Hawthorn also, they've got a great fleet of smalls up forward. I think GWS, now I don't have the numbers because I only caught it on the commentary, but they had, I think Collingwood had like 20 entries or something, was it, in the third quarter? And GWS in their defensive 50 had laid 19 tackles.
Mm.
That's an incredible stat. Like usually forward 50 tackles from a team for a game is... If it's double figures, it's unusual. They had 9. I'm sure it was 19 for a quarter.
I wouldn't be surprised at that thing because of the fact that Taylor was outstanding at fullback. Winfield was had the ball on a string as well. Ash was really good as well. So their defence was right on top of the forwards.
Yeah, no. I'm talking about forward 50 tackling when the ball was in our forward 50, Mac. When the ball is in our forward 50, I'm talking about our smalls working defensively in our forward 50.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I just thought that you...
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Collingwood had 20-odd forward 50 entries, but GWS in their defensive 50, so in Collingwood's forward 50, laid 19 tackles.
Which was outstanding.
Yeah. Anyway. All right, let's move on. So I think we've reached a consensus. The consensus being Neil Bullen, Walker, and Rochelle, Keys, Thilthorpe, and Fogarty. So we'll leave the midfield till last. Let's go and have a look at the defence, shall we? So we'll go in reverse order this time. Big man, who are your key tools down back?
Key tools. So I think these ones are... This is pretty self-explanatory. So I think you got Keane at fullback, Murray at centre half back, and Josh Worrell in one of the pockets. Do you agree with Nako?
No room for Geordie Butts?
Yeah, well...
Butsy, I think, would probably be the next in line if there's an injury. So Keane is having his hip tested this week. I think he'll be fine, just judging by the way he was moving at training. But if Keane comes out, then I think Butts would be the next in. But, what do you reckon, Mackie? You agree?
Well, I think you summed it up pretty well, actually. The only debate with me would be whether Murray would go into the pocket and Worrell at centre half back, because I think they can play either, and it would probably depend who they're playing on. But I think you did sum it up very well. I reckon it is those three players that you mentioned. It's Worrell, Murray and Keane. I don't think Butts is Butts is going to be standby in emergency if one of the guys gets injured, but I don't think he's going to be in the starting 23. And I'll hand that over to Brownie. Hasn't had a say. Brownie hasn't had a say.
Yeah, I'm pretty similar. I think at the moment, I think in the pre-season, Keane's done enough to hold his spot. So yeah, and yeah, similar to Big Man, I think Murray sent half back and Worrell out in the pocket. I think they pretty much pick themselves.
What a great
About
pick
you,
Keane's
boss?
been too.
What was that? Sorry, mate.
What was that? Sorry.
No, that was me. Sorry, I just interjected. I was going to say, what a great pick up Keane's been from, to have the Mackesy situation, which obviously was terrible the way it worked out, but to get Keane for nothing out of Ireland and the way he's improved so quickly for us, I think it's just such a great get.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, he's had his moments. He's had a couple of games where he's been completely owned, but overall he's been hard at the ball. I think his kicking's getting better. It's just got to be. I think it's more with him. It's more his selection when not trying to find someone in the middle on the way out, just to keep it wide, kick long, and don't try and be too cute. But I reckon, yeah, he's just a competitor, and you couldn't really be unhappy with him.
I think he changes the game too a bit for us with the way he sees things upfield. I don't think we have someone who takes the risks he does, and you're right, they don't always pay off, but I think he changes our ball movement a bit because, in the past we've been a bit stodgy coming out of defence. We've gone long down the line to the right back flank and everything. He actually changes his mind quite a bit in quick motion. So I love the way in which he sees the game. His defensive stuff has still got a bit of work to go, but I think he's going to be really important for us this year.
Yeah, I'm not unhappy with that. I just want to go back and have a look and see what St Kilda's forward line looks like, because I wonder.
For sure.
Have a look at there. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. So up forward, they've got who's their tall?
Max King, but we don't know if he's playing yet, do we?
Well, no, he's definitely not playing.
So has he been rolled out? Is he? Because I heard it was just it was up in the air.
Well, if you're going by what the AFL got him down for 2 to 3 weeks, so he's not on that basis. If that's right, he's not going to be playing. So that's what I think, Fiend.
Yeah, which, like you say, it makes him.
And Cooper Sharman's broken his thumb, so he's not going to be up there for our game.
Yeah, so
and Mitch Owens is another one who's he probably doesn't play as well with that AC joint injury.
Yeah, he won't be playing, and also Philippo won't be playing either.
No, he's not forward.
He rests up, Paul.
Yeah, but he's not a key forward, Macca. So
I actually think that. Sorry, Fang. I was going to say.
Go on.
Sorry, my bad. I was just going to say. I think I wouldn't be surprised if Ron Marshall plays quite a bit up forward against us, and Harry Boyd takes a lot of the ruck. Just because, I think obviously they're undersized, and I think Rowan's probably going to be a bit underdone with his fitness. Yeah. So he'll probably have to play a lot forward. So he's probably someone that we'll have to worry about.
Yeah, I don't think they've got much option. I think they're going to have to do that. But we're going to have to. There's certainly no room for four tools down back, and Josh Worrell can play a mid-sized role, so that's not a big deal. I think Murray could certainly do the job on Marshall, and Keane will probably chop out a bit, because I think at some stages we're going to have to be careful that we don't get done by a mosquito fleet, to be honest with you. All right, so Macca, we've got the tools out of the way. Who are your who's filling out the other three spots down back?
Well, obviously we've got probably Murray at centre half back.
We've done the tools. We've done the tools.
Yeah. I'm just working out who we're going to put on the flanks.
So Josh Worrell on the weekend, Josh Worrell in the interview that I had was extremely bullish about Wayne Miller. They obviously want him in the side.
Well, that's what I was sort of mumbling to myself. But do I say Miller or don't I go Miller? Because I mean, we have got other players we can put there, mate. I mean, I think I've got Hinge on one halfback, mate.
Yeah.
And I think you guys agree that he's a lock. I think he's a lock on one of the halfback flanks. That's just
I'm with you, Macca. Hinge definitely.
What do you reckon, Brownie, about Hinge?
I've got Hinge. Yeah, first pick. He's a lock. Yeah. But I'll probably, I'm probably not in the leg camp though. I'm probably going Nank on the other flank.
All right, that isn't. Yeah, I did say this.
In the pocket.
All right. Well, this is why I didn't do this one, the back half first, because we've got to cast 1,000 down back. So, all right, Mac, continue. We're agreed on Hinge.
Yeah. That's why I was headed, and I was nearly going to start that other side. Then I thought, no, I'll go to the safe side, and I'll do Hinge first, because and I know this is going to be the point of contention, and that's Laird versus Miller. My take on it is that if Miller, I would play Miller in the twos to get some form up, because he hasn't played for a long time, and I would start with Laird there, but with the hope that Miller outed him fairly quickly. But you were talking about starting 22. So
first round starting 22, yeah.
Yeah, so it is starting round, so I'm going to start with Hinge on one flank, and I'm going to start with Laird on the other and hope that Miller replaces him eventually.
Right. So you
on the flanks, or are we talking about in the back pocket? And they're talking about the pocket.
Well, I'm just talking about defence. So we've got Worrell, Keane, and Murray as our tools. We've got Laird and Hinge. You've put in so far, subject to as the smalls.
Yeah.
We need another.
What's his name? My middle blank.
Michael
Michael got a lock on it. Yeah, he's got a lock. That's his spot.
All right, big man. What do you?
So I'll throw it back to big man. Yeah, big man. Your thoughts, mate?
Yeah, well, it's not up to me because if you look at that scratch match I was talking about before, it was Laird and Miller in the A team and Nank in the B team. So, to be fair, that B team, the A team only had 20 players, so there's 3 to come in, but Thilthorpe and Keane didn't play, so it's really only one that could come in, and Draper was in the B team, and I think we'll talk about him later. So, I'm running out of spots to put Nank in, as much as I think he deserves to be in it, but that's another discussion. I think Laird's definitely going to be in there, whether we like it or not. If this is based on what we think should happen, I think he's got more credits in the bank than Miller does anyway. So I'd probably have him on that halfback flank, and I agree Hinge on the other and Max in the other pocket. I think that's about right if that back six is how it looks. And I think that obviously there's someone to come off the bench, whether that's Nank or Miller, which I think is a real sticking point for a lot of us.
Brownie, what do you think? I know you're not into Laird.
Yeah, I'm not. I think it's a time when you've got to call it, and we've got to look at the future. But yes, I'd have Hinge. I'd probably still have Nank rather than Miller until Miller can show a bit of consistency and show his body's going to hold up to it. And definitely Michael Annie's that's a no-brainer.
Yeah, as much as I love Nankervis, and he's not out of the 23 in my book, but I don't think he starts. I reckon it'll be Laird because we know that that's how we roll. I think Rory Laird. If we're going to have integrity in selection, I think it's a very big 4 weeks for Rory Laird because I haven't seen him offer a lot defensively. He certainly does all right around stoppages in the forward 50, in the defensive 50. But his outlet work in terms of his distribution is terrible. He tends to slow us down. He kicks the ball up high down the line 9 times out of 10. He does slow momentum. So unless he can give us more defensively and unless he can start becoming more dynamic on transition, we've got better options. Wayne Miller is a fantastic distributor of the ball. Luke Nankervis is also a good distributor of the ball and doesn't mind taking a risk and doesn't mind going for a run either. So I think Laird for round 1, but with a massive asterisk on his name that I hope is on the Adelaide selection board as well.
I agree, sir.
All right. We're going well, gentlemen. We're going well. We're considering the late start. We're only 50 minutes in and we've got 2/3 of the side done. Now it gets interesting. So I think the consensus would be Riley O'Brien is going to be rucking. Anyone disagree with that?
No, I don't think there's any argument there.
Unfortunately, it'd be nice to have an alternative, but we don't at this stage. So it comes down to who we think is going to be the ground staff. And Brownie, I'm going to start with you this time.
Oh, I'd have Rankin and Saligo would be my first 2 picks every time. Saligo's been
in there.
looking, and Saligo's looked really sharp this year. So I'm hoping he'll actually improve on what he did last year, and last year was pretty good.
Yeah, particularly he hit the ground running once he got fit. So you need one more, mate.
That is probably Dawson, I suppose.
He goes all right.
He does go right.
I reckon you'd put in Geordie. So we're talking about centre square. So this is your first CBA would be O'Brien, Rankin, Saligo, and Dawson. You're saying?
Correct.
All right. What do you reckon, Macca?
Yeah, look, there's no doubt Saligo is my first choice in there.
Mm-hmm.
Dawson will probably start there, and as the season goes, he might not spend as much time there, but I think he'll start there, particularly for the round 1 game. And Rankin again, I think will probably be there. Peatling, we recruited him, and it wouldn't be a surprise if he actually did start, but in there. But I think he'll probably come on as first change. The other alternative would be to start Peatling on a wing, and then that way introduce him into the midfield as well when it's his turn. But no, I think the way that it was originally put, pardon me, I've got a frog in my throat. The Brownie put it. I think I'll go along with the same as him.
Big man, what do you think?
I think you know
controversial a bit controversial so far, I've got to say.
No, I think that's pretty likely to be how we line up first bounce next Sunday. So I agree with Macca too that Peatling's probably the one who could probably be there on the first bounce as well. It's definitely going to be out of those 4, I'd imagine.
None of you have mentioned Matt Crouch.
He loves the start of the bench, Fee.
No, we're talking about starting.
Yeah. Mate, you've been drinking Crouch's bathwater for years, so I'm shocked.
Well, I've still got him in the team, mate. He'll be coming on a second change.
It's fine.
But,
look, I want to have a discussion with you guys about Peatling, because I reckon if it were me, I would be inclined to start Geordie on a wing or Saligo on a wing and have Peatling in at the first CBA because of his energy and his ball hunting ability. Can I sway any of you?
Look, there's a psychological reason for doing that, in the sense that you were saying to Peatling, we got you to be our really good midfielder, and we're going to put you in there first to give you a crack. And there would be a good psychology in doing that. Whether they'll think that or not is another question, but if they did that, I wouldn't be against it. So what do you think, big man?
I think he's probably the most defensively minded of our midfielders. So, I mean, if you look at that those other three, Rankin, I wouldn't look at all for the defensive side of things. I don't think we want to anyway. Saligo probably not as well. I think Dawson's probably the most balanced in terms of his defensive and offensive stuff. So I agree that if Dawson's not in that midfield to start with, then Peatling definitely has to be in there because he'd be the most other willing tackler in that group. But I agree, he's an energy giver and it would be a great sign of confidence for him. I'd have no issue with that at all if that was the case. Potentially you could also maybe start a Saligo at half forward and then have Peatling start in the guts and then they can swap after a few bounces perhaps.
No, we've already decided on our forward line, big man.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Sorry.
Sorry, mate. Card lays the card plate. So, Brownie, what do you reckon?
Yeah, at the end of the day, the idea of having starting Dawson on a wing or a halfback or whatever, there's no real negative there. I just picked him because I suppose he's our go-to, and I thought you'd probably have your captain start first game of the year, but either or, I don't think it matters a great deal. I can see the attractiveness of having Peatling fired up to start in the centre first game for the club too.
I think he's got to start. He is a recruit. He's done really well, and I honestly think he's got to start on the ground. I think that's going to be his role. It would be a real anticlimax for him, I think, if he started on the bench, even though he was rotating. I think what I would probably do is start Saligo on a wing and have Rankin, Dawson and Peatling in the guts.
Sounds pretty good.
Mm.
Anyone opposed to that?
No, that's okay. Although the only thing against it, there is a little bit against it in the sense that Saligo is in outstanding form as a midfielder, and I really think that's probably sort of a slight really to push him out of the opening one. So I'd be inclined, if anything, to if I had to try and get Peatling in there, I think I would actually put Rankin in the forward line, and I know we've said what we've all said, but go with Saligo, Peatling, who's very versatile. He's got very good pace himself, and a very good breakaway, and Dawson.
What about starting Geordie, sort of defensive side of the wing, coming off sort of the back corner of the square, as sort of that fourth midfielder, because that way he's not getting tagged at the bounce, and he's coming through with a bit of pace, and is that outlet from the clearance. Brownie, what do you think about that idea?
Don't mind it at all, actually. Especially if they can get the ball into his hands with his disposal early in the game and hit up forward. I think that's a massive benefit. Whether he's got the ball coming out of the centre or whether they've got a plan to run him off the back corner, I think that there's definitely something in that for sure.
Big man.
Who's the one that suggested Saligo on the wing? Was that you, Finn?
Me initially, and then I said maybe Dawson.
Okay. Well, I feel like out of all those guys, to the eye anyway, it feels like they've had Saligo on the wing the most out of those guys. So that could be the way they go. They do seem to like him in that area. So potentially you could start Saligo on there, and that allows Peatling to start on in the guts as well. So I don't mind that one. Look, to be honest, you could go a bunch of combinations, but I think at the very least you'd like to see 3 of those 4 start on the ground. But yeah, I don't mind the idea of Saligo on the wing, actually.
All right, so I'm gonna take a vote because we're at a stalemate. Who votes Dawson starting on the wing? Put your hand up. Yeah, sorry, big man. Dawson starting on the wing, and I'm putting him on the opposite wing to Hinge because I reckon he'll probably come off that other bit, and we'll chuck Peatling in. And I've got to say, that combination, when you have a look at it, is there anyone? Is Lockie Scholl? Is he coming up? Is he getting up? Because I think if he's fit, he gets played simply because they've obviously played him through the course. Pardon me, through the course of the pre-season. Don't you think, mate?
Yes. So I was going to say he did play in the practice match on Friday, and obviously played against the Lions. So I think he's ready to go.
Yeah, but did he necessarily did he necessarily start on the ground though? That's another question. I mean, he can still be in the.
It'd be unlikely. You're going to have Cumming on one wing.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
So if you're going to have whoever's not in the midfield on the other wing, then there's no room for him in the starting team.
Very good point, Jeffrey.
Yeah, discuss. That's what I've got. That's what. Well, that's why I had Joel starting on the bench, because you can't. There isn't room then for him to start on the ground, and I don't think there's anything particularly wrong with that, because that particular structure will change pretty quickly as the game develops, and which means the first change you got to have Shoal come on very quickly. So we're talking about centre bounce attendances. It doesn't necessarily mean that's how that they're going to be on ballers or for that whole period of time. That's what
Big man, what do you reckon?
That's how
I think it'd be interesting to see, so if you, when I think of Cumming, I'm thinking of a guy that plays, he's probably a natural halfback really, but we seem to be playing him on a wing. So I feel like he's probably going to be more of that guy that kind of floats back into defence. And I think if you want that, the other wing probably more than you want the attacking player. If you look at Dawson though, he's sort of both, isn't he? Obviously you love him kicking inside 50, but we know he made his name as a halfback. So is it too much of the same thing? Then again, Scholl is also, he's basically both, isn't he? He loves to run back in defence, get those, take those marks coming out of of the half back line. And then he's another one that tends to get a lot of inside 50s as well. So, I think in this scenario, I'd probably go with Cumming on the field, and then Scholl comes off the bench.
Yep.
Yeah, I like that too. Lockie's done nothing wrong. I just think Cumming's a better player, to be honest.
Yep.
Offers us more. So, that's our starting 18. I'll just read that out from the forward line. We've got Fogarty, Thilthorpe, Keys, Rochelle Walker and Neil Bullen. On the wings, we've got Dawson and Cumming. Rux, O'Brien. Roving is Saligo, Peatling and Rankin. Defence, the tools, we've got Keane Murray, the medium tall Worrell and Michael Annie, who can play, both of those can play medium. Michael Annie can also play small. We've got Hinge as probably the chop out halfback and also the distributor out of there, and Laird with a big question mark. And we've already got two on the bench, Crouch and Scholl, that we couldn't find a spot on the ground for. So we need, two more and a sub. Mac, what do you reckon?
Oh, look, I'm going to pass over to Big Man to go first, because I'm just struggling here at the moment, because it's when you haven't got the names in front of you, it's very hard to think of who we got and who we put where. Now, I'm going to pass over you first, Big Man.
That's all right. I'll take it. Quickly, I was going to say, I just read Firewalk posted that Cumming's a natural halfback playing wing and Nake's a natural wing playing halfback. I think that's a great comment. I actually fully agree. But anyway, I'll move on. So there's we got Crouch to come on. Is that right? Scholl.
Yep.
Yep. So the question, I think we talked about Curtin before. I think he's probably have to do the mix.
Has to be.
And then it looks like it's going to have to be two out of these three, which would be Draper, Nankervis, and Miller.
Yes, they're the names. I'll have my turn now. So I'm an Nankervis fan, actually. and so I'm going to be a little bit controversial in the sense that I think Curtin's got to be in there. And then Curvis, I would have in there with Draper as a sub. That's the way I see it. And then,
yeah, I reckon I'm probably with Big Man, and when it comes to picking out of those three for the last spot, I can't see how you can't play Draper after what he showed in that game against Brisbane. He was unbelievable. And I think, of course, you can't start him, but starting him on the bench, I think we've got to be pushing these young guys through, and you've got to get reward for.
Not as a sub, but actually as a bench player.
Oh no, as a bench player, not as a sub. No, yeah. I'd be playing him 100%. I didn't like what Nick's did with Curtin last year, bringing him off as an injury sub, giving him limited time, and basically they're pulling him off. And I just don't think it's great for the confidence when you don't give the young guys a bit of a go. And I think if you're going to play a young guy, you've got to give him 2 or 3 games. You can't give him a game or half a game and then rip him off. So I think he showed enough that he's got the pace and the smarts to play at that level straight away. He showed that against Brisbane. He didn't look overawed. He was quick by hand. He was really quick by foot. And his disposal was pretty good, which is pretty unusual for an Adelaide midfielder. So, yeah, I'd definitely be rewarding him.
Brownie, if I can just say, you raised a very good point. And I was tossing up between him and then Curvis for who's on the field and who's a sub. And I wouldn't be upset either way. I wouldn't be upset either way. Because now Curvis would make a very good sub, in my opinion, in the sense that he's a player that can actually play half-back, he can play wing. And I think, if necessary, he can play other roles. I just think he's a very good player. I think I don't think they rate him as highly as I do, I don't think. But what do you think, Ian? Fee, what do you think?
Look, I agree with you. For some reason, he doesn't seem to capture their attention or capture their imagination. Luke Nankervis, I would have him in instead of Laird. I'd have him starting instead of Laird if I was the selection panel. But we know that's not going to happen. I just can't see our best 22 without Luke Nankervis in it. But I think he does get pushed potentially to the sub. Let me just run through a couple of names that we haven't included, and I'm not saying that we should. I'm just saying that here are some players that have been regularly in our 22 over the course of the last couple of years who aren't included. Chase Jones, Sam Berry, Luke Pedler, Braden Cook, Wayne Miller, obviously when he's fit. Harry Schoenberg has been a bit fringe. Billy Dowling, James Borlase, Hugh Bond doesn't get a look in. There's some names there that would be very, very unfortunate. Are there any of those names that I just called out that we need to consider? Hugh Bond is one.
Dowling and Bond, I think, are the unlucky two, in the sense that for Dowling is actually, in my opinion, quite a good midfielder. We're actually pretty loaded in the midfield for a change now. So, but he played last year on a wing as a wingman, and I thought he actually played very well. I don't think the club, for some reason, see him as good as I do. But I do. I think he's somebody says in the chat that he's a squad player, and look, he is definitely a squad player, and there'll be times I think when he will get his opportunity. But I think he's good enough, and I thought when he played last year, he proved that he was good enough. And I think Bond was extremely unlucky because every time he put the Guernsey on in the A's, he has never let us down. I think he's always played well. He's more of a neutraliser than a positive player. But I'll tell you what, he's a very good lockdown player. So if the situation you've got a player that you really want to lock down, he can do it. And but they're the two that I think that are stiff, and I think that they will possibly get games during the year. So I'll throw it to Brownie. Do you agree with what I said?
Yeah, I think those two are definitely stiff, and I think Miller at his best is also he probably jumps ahead of them in terms of what he at his best. We know what he can produce. It's like he's so elusive, he's so good at hitting targets. That the question is, what the body's like. But I don't think any of those three would knock anyone that we've picked out at this point. I think they're all pretty solidly ahead of those three at the moment. But that just goes to show we're in a situation where we've actually got some midfield depth and some general depth that we haven't had for quite a while. So it's a good position to be in for sure.
Mm.
What about you, big man?
He summed it up well. I think a lot of those names that Fiend mentioned, I think they're just behind someone that's already in that 22. So like a Bond, is stiff, but obviously you're not going to play him ahead of Max. And a Pedler, for instance, I think, now that Rochelle came back comes back into the team, I think that makes it hard to fit Pedler in. I think so. And with Dowling and Chase, obviously Cumming comes into the team, that pushes one of them out. Peatland comes to the team, that pushes Berry out. So, look, these guys are going to get opportunity throughout the year because injuries unfortunately happen. And it's just a matter of time for them. I'd be curious to see who would be in first out of Schoenberg or Berry. I think Schoenberg's actually showing the better form at the moment with his energy and his power and in the stoppage. I feel like he's actually gone ahead of Berry. Maybe the club doesn't see it that way, but to my eye, that's how it kind of looks.
Different players, big man. Different.
Well,
players.
sort of. But I mean, if we lose a midfielder, I'd be curious to see who we go with in that group. Obviously, Draper's probably the next in line. We haven't said whether he's going to be sub or not yet, but if we want to get another midfielder in there, I think you've got to play players in form. I think Harry's really knocking the door down. But yeah, I think those guys all have, and Zach Taylor's another one as well that could have been in there. I think a lot of these guys haven't done a whole lot wrong, but because of the changes we've made to our list and everything, and fingers crossed our list stays pretty healthy as it is at the moment. It's just a bit hard for them at the moment, but as I said, they'll definitely get opportunities throughout the year because injuries happen.
Look, to be perfectly honest, I think if we were fully authentic and had full integrity with selection, we'd have Bond in instead of Laird. I don't think Bond's put a foot wrong. He did a very good job on Charlie Cameron again last week in the trial, and I know it was only a trial, but that's indicative of what he's done since he's been that lockdown small defender. I don't know whether we get the same defensive action out of Laird, and I don't think what Laird offers us going the other way is sufficient to compensate for that. Billy Dowling, to me, is particularly underrated. I would have him on the bench instead of Lockie Scholl. I think Lockie Scholl either starts or is out of the 23, to be perfectly frank. I don't know whether he's that much of an impact player. I think he's more of an accumulator player. And I think Billy Dowling, to be perfectly honest with you, has got a lot of tools that would be, quite useful coming off the bench. So, I mean, I think he's incredibly stiff. I think Luke Pedler didn't make enough of his opportunities. He was given, I think, every opportunity to perform in the pre-season, and I think, I don't know about you, Brownie, but it's like he played with that weight on his shoulder. He seemed rushed and he seemed to lack composure. Is that what you saw?
Yeah, I think he had a purple patch there last year early when he looked really composed and really good, and his decision making was good, but he doesn't seem the same player at the moment. I think it's more above the shoulders than anything else. But I don't know that it might be his reaction to the way, all the competition that's there now as well. But he didn't look sharp and smooth, and he didn't look convincing. So I agree with this 100%. 2023
was when he had that real
was it?
run of games in the back half of the season where he was getting a few CBAs and was doing quite well. And at that stage, I thought, oh, here he comes, sort of thing. But he, that he really suffered with that shoulder injury. It set him back a bit. And I just felt like, Mac, I don't know whether this is what you thought, but I just felt like he was playing with the weight of knowing that he was playing for a spot. And the wet conditions probably didn't help him, but it was the same for everyone up there. And I was just disappointed for him that he didn't take that opportunity.
Yeah, look, that happens to a lot of players that when they're actually playing for their spot, some players make it and seize the opportunity. Others over try, and as a result of over trying, they tend to stuff up, and he's probably in that category. So, look, at the moment, there isn't. Well, put this way, we've got, I think, probably not just a good 22, 23 player. We've probably got about a good 26, probably, that we could pick from, and that's why if you're down in that fringe area. If you're the 18th, 19th, 20th type player, I think you're always under pressure. Now, some people relish in that, and others just find the burden of that a little bit too much for them. So, but the bloke you're talking about, he just hasn't really locked it away at this stage.
Yeah. Now, a reminder that we are live and interactive, and we have a few people in the studio audience, and one of them we enjoy hearing from, and he's got his hand up, so it doesn't seem to be inviting you to speak, Arab. I don't know why. Maybe you've taken off. But if you would like to have your say, maybe redo it, Arab. Oh, maybe I've got a limit on how many people can be on the stage at once. How rude. Let me just check that.
That might be right.
We've never had that many people. Sorry, Arab. I'll have to investigate that during the week. So if you want to come on and have your say, stiff shit, you can't.
I was looking at 4 ages. I'm thinking, I wonder whether there's room. It turns out there isn't.
Sorry, Arab. Would love to hear from you, but it's there must be a setting about how many people you can have on the stage at once. So we'll sort that out, and we'll get the interaction back next week. Obviously, put your thoughts in chat, and I'll read them out for you. Look, it's a really good position to be in, isn't it, big man? The fact that we are now in a situation where there are probably genuinely 26 to 27 players who you could genuinely consider for a first 23 spot. We haven't even talked about Charlie Edwards, Oscar Ryan, these blokes, so who are waiting in the wings and, haven't really done anything wrong, and under different circumstances probably would have already been given a run. But in a squad of, 38 to 40 odd players, that's pretty good. And the other, thoughts on that maybe? Chase Jones is the other one.
I agree, and it's whether we have enough star power is probably something to debate. But in terms of our depth, I think it has to be up there with some of the best in the AFL, because we've got some guys that should be playing AFL that probably won't be there round one. And it's great to know that if we do cup a few injuries, that we do have some pretty decent players to come in. And I this is what Mac has said before about Pedlar. I really agree with that word. I forgot the word he actually used, but it was in terms of his in terms of trying too hard. He's someone that I think he's off his game when he really struggles to do the basics. And I think he overthinks things, he overexerts himself, and I think he causes more trouble than he actually creates positive things, because he goes too hard at the ball. He gets a bit clumsy. So I really wanted to. Yeah, exactly. So I really want to see him find some form in the SANFL first, but I would love to see him in the team at some stage, because he does have something. I am starting to lose a bit of confidence in him, but at the end of the day, you don't lose your talent. So hopefully he can get that back. I noticed you didn't mention Murphy, Fiend. Did you know?
That was going. I stopped myself. But before we get on to Lockie, Brownie, the other bloke that we haven't talked about is Zach Taylor.
He's probably another one in that boat. that last year, every time he got an opportunity, he put his hand up and he performed. The problem is these guys, and I think of all of those, Dowling's probably the one that he's probably got a few more points than the rest because he showed some real poise in the forward line, kicking a few clutch goals. He seems to have time, and I think they're the kind of players we need, the guys that don't panic, that have got time when there's pressure on. I think Dowling probably is a rung above all of those. But all of those guys, they probably more perform roles than be creative, whereas Dowling showed he can be quite creative. He had a few runs through the middle and got some good clearances, and he can hit targets. But yeah, I do think Taylor and the other guys you mentioned, they're all stiff. And if it was, had we not gone to the table and got a heap of new players, they're probably all in the mix this year. It's just a different dynamic.
I agree, mate. And I think if Lockie Murphy gets anywhere near this side, then it just confirms that there are photos and we do lack selection integrity, because he wouldn't even be in my next 5, I don't think, to get chosen. Definitely
not in mine.
Specific role, perhaps you could make a case, but really wouldn't be in my next 5, Lockie Murphy. What do you reckon, big man?
Well, I don't think the club sees it the same way, because I think obviously he was in that travelling group up at Brisbane, and he was named in the best in the SANFL on the weekend. So, and then last weekend after the Brisbane game. So, I think they do still consider him part of that extended team. So I wouldn't be surprised to see him on the emergencies. But with Neil Bullen coming in, I think that for now anyway, probably puts an end to Murph's time in the team. Just one last thing at Pedler. Should we consider using him on to tag Callum Wilkie, because the Tom Stewart move worked so well last year?
Classic.
I mean, no. I don't think Pedler's got a tag in him. Mac?
Well, Murphy, my God. Those goat picks that have lasted for a long time, but I think, they're starting to fade and the sepia starting to come out of them, so you can't really tell what's going on. Look, I just cannot believe this guy has played the number of games that he has. And when queried...
Let's not bag him. Let's be
pragmatic
about it. Yeah.
I was going to actually quote the club here, that when he was actually asked about what his role was, because he doesn't seem to get the ball, it was that he plays a non-statistical role. Well, I think that I play a non-statistical role because I'm not out there. And I think Murphy can play his non-statistical role off the ground. So, look, I don't think he should ever be considered under any circumstances. And he's in the leadership group because they were elected by the players last year, and their popularity came into it rather than ability, in my opinion. Look, we've said about 5 or 6 names that are very stiff to not be in this our opening 23, and Murphy's not one of them. He's definitely not, as far as I'm concerned. It's factual.
I was going to say, I think one thing about Murph, and I will say this: we did sort of Petrenko him because he was, coming through the junior system, he wasn't a small forward, and at the time when obviously we brought him into the team, we didn't have a lot of small forwards other than Eddie Betts. We just lost Charlie Cameron, so it was a bit of the old square peg in a round hole sort of situation where we played him out of position just because we needed someone quick and feisty up there. Murph's actually a pretty decent player, but I think he's shown that he probably doesn't have the composure and the consistency required at AFL level. But look, he is quick. He is, obviously he provides a decent amount of pressure. So I'm going to say this: don't be shocked if we do see him at some stage this year. But he won't be there round 1.
You're very generous to him, mate. You're very generous to him.
Look, I think. So you go.
You talk about the pressure. I remember the particular game that when they queried his selection and the non-statistical role, they were quite right. He didn't even have one tackle for the game. No. So I mean, to me, I just think that Skyman summed it up quite well. I'm not going to say what he said, but I don't think he's good enough.
Anyway.
Right? Yeah, he says Murphy's fucking garbage. Well, look.
Look, let's not bag people. Okay, there's no.
No, I'm not bagging. But I just got to say he's not good enough, mate. He's just not good enough.
I mean, as a junior, he was a midfielder, and then and when he was in our development team for the SANFL, he played as a half back, and then when he moved into the AFL, when we drafted him, we played him as a small forward. So he's actually playing a position that's not his natural game, and we can see that with his goal sense and everything. And it's not quite at the AFL level. So I think he's a victim of being played in the wrong position. But I think now we've just clearly got better options.
Well, I think you can see Murph's talent around stoppage when he actually plays high and gets involved, because he can get a clearance. He's not bad as a midfield. It's just that there's no room for that in our squad, and whether he's good enough to be that in some other team at AFL level, I probably doubt it. He's clearly, you play enough games of AFL football, you're clearly going to be a class above at SANFL level. So, and we know that the SANFL boys like to pump up the blokes that are under pressure. They always put them in the best players, even if they don't deserve it. There'd be a lot of blokes around the club that would be on Murph's wagon to get him back in. And look, that's fine. You just look at the side and you go, well, who do you take out? And there's a lot of people in the chat that have talked about Edwards and Ryan and a few other blokes, and it's like, yeah, absolutely. They could quite easily come in, but who do you take out? And I can't remember the last time, Brownie, we've had such a strong starting 23, to be honest with you.
Well, it's the first time that, love him or hate him, it's the first time Nick's has really had, enough quality in the midfield potentially that we can compete with the top 4, top 6 sides. That hasn't happened in his tenure. So I think from that point of view, yeah, you're right. There's just guys like Murphy. He might get a game later in the year when we've got 6 or 7 blokes out, but he's definitely not in our best 23 at the moment.
And Big Man, you said earlier that we might lack a little bit of star power. I actually disagree with that. When you have a look at each of the different lines we've got, I reckon we've got a top 4 forward line, and you talk about star power there. We've got Thilthorpe coming up. We've got Walker, who's the champion veteran when he's fit. We've got Fogarty, who works up and down the ground. Neil Bullen is very, very solid. Rochelle can do things, and then we've got Rankin when he goes down there that can do a bit. So I reckon we've got a bit of star power there. And then when you look at the midfield, with Geordie Dawson probably top 20 in the league, Isaac again running through there, Saligo really coming on, and same with Peatling. They may not be name players in terms of games played and experience, but I reckon they're up and coming. Even down back, Josh Worrell and Max Michaelani, 2 of the better medium-sized defenders going around. We've got a few on the bench. So I don't think we actually lack star power. It's just that they're not stars yet, some of them.
Yeah, it's an interesting point, because I don't actually half disagree with you. When I say star power, I probably mean guys that can take games away from you. And if you were to ask me, who are the players in our team that could probably take a game away from the opposition, I would say Rankin, and then probably say Dawson to an extent. I think Thilthorpe's one that could probably move into that this year as well if he has a really good go at it. So whether that's enough compared to some other teams that will be around the mark this year, that's probably my only question. Like, do we have... a good example is Port Adelaide. They're sort of the antithesis of our team in that they probably don't have as well-rounded a team from backs, the forwards especially. I think we probably beat them, especially in the forward line. We obviously outclassed them, but our defence has probably got is definitely more well-rounded in terms of our key position stocks anyway. But do we have those guys like Butters and Horn-Francis who clearly have the ability to win games pretty much off their own boot? That's probably my question. It feels like we're getting to a stage now where we do sort of have those players. So I agree with you there. I just wondered whether we have enough do we have a Dusty Martin? Do we have a guy that's just going to rip the heart out of the opposition? I'm hoping Rankin can be that for us this year.
So, really
man, you make
measure,
an excellent.
Sorry, Matt, go on.
No, just say that Big Man's making an excellent point, and there's players like Cripps, for example, who just tears a game apart at times, and he can carry a whole side on his back. And that's the type of thing you're talking about, aren't you, Big Man?
Yeah, just those separating players. And I think we are on the verge. I think definitely Rankin's that sort of player. He sort of showed it at times last year. That Collingwood game at the MCG, he pretty much nearly got us across the line. So I think we do have some of the stock there. I just wonder if we have enough compared to, look at even a guy like Sydney. We know they struggled a bit on the weekend, but they still they have a Chad Warner, Isaac E. could have won a Brownlow last year. Do we have that sort of quality to really take us to that next step? When Dangerfield excelled, in that 2012 season, and Tex finally hit his mark in that same year. Those two guys were the reason, along with Sloan, that we rose up the ladder. And I'm just wondering, do we have the cattle to do the same for us this year? And I'm hoping we do, because I think our list management's actually come a long way, particularly the last few years. But I think it's got the questions that's going to be asked. I reckon if you asked a lot of neutral supporters, they would say the Crows lack stars. Obviously, Finn, you probably disagree with them. I think we have to wait and see. I have a feeling. Sorry, you go.
No, it's not that I disagree. It's just that I don't think we can. I mean, they're not stars until they're stars, right? But it doesn't mean that they still can't have that similar amount of input. I mean, it took Paddy Dangerfield until his 7th or 8th season to win a Brownlow. Dusty Martin took a while, but they still have those attributes, and I think we have a couple that are already there. I think you're right, Rankin and Dawson are the two obvious ones. I think we have a couple in the making, Thilthorpe, Rash up forward, and Saligo through the midfield, and I reckon Sid's got the makings of it if he continues on the trajectory that is his early form. Brownie, what do you reckon about? It's a good measure though, Big Man. You raise a really good point.
Yeah, I'm on the same bandwagon as you. I think they're not a few of them aren't stars yet, but we've got. I think Phil Thorpe. He's got the size now. He's got an extra year under his belt, and he could take the leap this year. I actually reckon Fogarty could become. He could go to another level and be that Tex Walker when Tex is gone. But at the moment, the biggest issue with Fog is that when Tex is on the field, he's just not getting the opportunity because they don't see him. But I reckon, if we've got some guys that could take the next step, even guys like, I think, Murray and Worrell could go to another level this year as well. So I think we've got guys that have got potential, but we're going to judge that at the end of the year. At the moment, it's potential. They've just got to keep improving.
Yeah. And I think also we look at a bloke like James Peatling, and we kind of, I think because he's a recruit, we kind of think, he's an experienced player. He hasn't played a lot of football. It took him a while to break through into the GWS side, so he's got a lot of upside too, I think. And what he's shown early days, stepping up into a more prominent role with the Crows compared to what he was doing at GWS, has showed some real signs as well. So I take what you say, Big Man, and I don't disagree. As it stands right at the moment, we haven't got those big star names that you're talking about. But those star names were stars before they became stars. If that, you've got to do it before you can be called it, I guess.
Yeah.
And I think we're on the verge with a number of our players where that could be said. It's an It's a very good measure, though.
It's a very subjective thing, though.
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah.
I think your point about Peatling was very good too, Fiend, in the sense that. If you want to see a player that I think is going to grow as the season goes along, it is him because, I watch every game and I saw Peatling come into the side last year in GWS and he got bits and pieces of games early. Then towards the end, he got his opportunity with injuries that presented him with opportunity to play in the midfield. And he just got better and better with every outing and he started to blossom as a player. Now, he's going to be a first 22 player with us. He's going to get a lot of opportunity in the midfield. And I think during this season, we're going to watch him grow to be even a much better player than the one that we actually traded in. So I think he'll end up being, a very, very gun midfielder by the end of the year.
Mm. I mean, I should preface by saying that when I say star, I mean, I'm talking about like the match winner type, the guy, the player that probably puts the fear of God into the opposition or the opposition supporters. You know, when you turn up to a game, you're looking at that player and you're thinking, gee, I hope he doesn't tear us a new one today. So, like, a great example, and he's not there yet, but he's looking pretty much like he's going to be there this year, if not, maybe next year, is Horn Francis support. Like a guy that has ability just to take the game away from you. And that's just my curiosity. Do we have enough of those players? Because if we do, then, I think we're a real chance. But I think I definitely don't have a problem with the overall quality of our best day team, because I think we actually have most bases covered, especially now after the trade and draft periods, because obviously the midfield was a weakness for us, but even that area is definitely strengthened up.
When you consider it though, big man, and Brownie, I'll be interested in your thoughts on this one. Like, how many teams have more than one or two?
Yeah, most probably. I mean, you think of the Bulldogs, you think of Bontempelli. There's a few other really good players. It's interesting. I heard Sam McClure say yesterday that talking about rating A-list A-grade players, he didn't think Heaney was an A-grader. So that goes to show how it can be subjective, because that blew my mind. That then he does that a bit, doesn't he? He's a bit odd. But, yeah.
I mean, when you
did say Sam McClure.
When you go through every team, and if you want to be specific, big man, and say that the players that put the fear of God into you, I reckon, like even Richmond in their heyday, you would say Martin, you might say Shai Bolton, but probably none of the others. And I include Cochin and Revolt and those blokes in that, because yes, they're really, really good, but they'll never, like, if you want to talk about that really upper echelon, just put the team on the back and carry them through.
Yeah.
There's probably only one or two in each side. I think it's the cattle that you put around them that is really important. And if Jordan can keep going with his trajectory, and if Isaac can fulfil his promise as a midfielder, there's your 1-2 punch right there, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, it's a good point you make, and that's probably fair. I mean, even Collingwood's another example. What they want to flag, and the only one that could probably be in that group would be Dacos. So I think that's probably a consideration. I guess the question is, do we have that player? I feel like Rankin could be that player. I don't know if he's that player yet. Like, do you consider him that player just yet, or do you think that's what we're looking for this year from him?
I think he's got this year to get to that really game-breaking. We're talking Andrew McLeod, basically.
Yeah.
I think he's got all the attributes of someone like Bungie. Just the same as I reckon Geordie Dawson's got all the attributes of Simon Goodwin in his heyday. And Goody, I think, was particularly underrated. Geordie's probably got more strings to his bow than Goody has. And the players that we've got around ranks are very similar, I think, to that 2002 to 2005 era where, we've got Soligo, who reminds me very much of Tyson Edwards. We've got James Peatling, who's a Kane Johnson type. We've got Geordie Dawson, who's a Simon Goodwin. We've got Rankin, who's potentially a McLeod. So there's a lot to like about it, but I think Rankin is the one.
Yeah, I agree, because I think also if you look at those players that we consider the game breakers, they tend to be goal-kicking midfielders. And we haven't really had that since Dangerfield. So I think that's probably part of the reason why we're moving Rankin into the midfield, because we think he could be that game-breaking midfielder for us, that who can go forward and kick goals, because that's what Dusty did, that's what Bont does, that's what Dacos does. They not only dominate the midfield,
doing it too. Geordie Dawson's pushing himself forward this season, and has stated that that's going to be part of what he does. And I think in terms of what Jordan offers, Macca, I'm interested in your thoughts on this one. Jordan Dawson is such a good mark and such a good kick that I think if you see Jordan Dawson float forward, he is someone that puts fear of God into you, because he can take a good mark and he'll kick you a goal in a clutch situation.
I think you've understated with his marking ability. I watch him mark the football, and I am astounded. Of all the balls being kicked from 60 metres away, there's about 5 players around him, and this guy goes up at the right time with hands like vices, gripping the ball and taking those marks. He's got to be one of the best marks I've ever seen in the competition. I reckon he's absolutely outstanding. And I don't care whether he was playing up forward, back or middle. He can do it anywhere on the ground. And that's why I think we will see him drifting forward quite a bit this year. He was doing it in those couple of trial games. He drifted forward a couple of times and got a couple of goals. And he's got outstanding ability. I mean, his leg is a beautiful laser-like leg. He can kick him from 60 out on the run. But, even from a set shot, he can kick him from 50 out or even slightly further. Oh, the man is an absolute gun, and he doesn't have the flair of some players in terms of, like Cripps, for example, but what he does have, he is so reliable. He marks everything, and he uses the ball well. He's just a complete footballer. That's what I think, Pete.
Yep. Very good. All right, well, we're just about out of time. I think probably my final thoughts, and we'll go around the table on this one, and we've covered most of this anyway, but just to finish off, I don't think I've seen a more balanced side on paper for the Crows in a long time, and I know there's a long way to go, but there's no reason why this side shouldn't make top 8 this year. Injuries aside, obviously.
Well, I'm one that sticks their neck out and makes the big statements, Dean.
Yes, sure.
So I'll do that first, and then let big man follow after me. Look, I don't think we have for a lot of years built a side which is as complete as this particular side, because normally even last year, if you went through the 23, you'd look say, oh, that's a bit of a weakness, that's a bit of a weakness here. And on paper, so it's definitely on paper, but also the 2 trial games that we played, there is no obvious weakness. There isn't that one that's going to let you down, that you can see there's going to let you down on paper. You look at it, you think, well, gee, that looks very complete. And I don't think I'd have to go back about 6 or 7 years before, at least 6 years before I could think we had a team that was as complete on paper as this one is. Now, will it be the best in the competition? Probably not. But will it be one that's very, very competitive, and will it make the final 8? Yes, I think it will. And I'm quite confident we can get somewhere in the 5th to 8th range, because I think we do have a pretty complete side that has got some good quality in it, and we also have some backup reserves in case of injury. So that's my take on it. I'm very happy with what we've got. We always want to improve it, but I think it's good enough to make 5th to 8th. So over to you, big man.
Thanks, Macca. Look, yeah, I'm tend to be an optimist. I always have a bit of trepidation with preseason, because I remember in 2019 I thought, gee, I think we're going to have a good year here, and we played round 1 against Hawthorn and we were terrible, and it just flattened me completely. So I've always been a bit cautious with getting too excited about how we're travelling preseason, because we just never know how good the other guys are going to be, around the competition. So it does feel like I definitely agree with you. This is the most even our list has been. And I think that with the draw that we have, particularly early on, we've got to cash in. I'd love to be at least 2-2, if not 3-1 by gather round. And I think that we've got to start winning those close games, because I think we're going to be in a lot of games this year. And if we can just turn the tide on some of those away games, especially, it's going to go a long way to getting top 8, which I think is, obviously the aim, but I think that has to be the expectation, because we have put in a lot of hours into these young kids. Plus, we've recruited some ready-made players as well. So the list is there to perform. We've just got to do it now. What do you reckon, Brownie?
Yeah, I think the way I look at it, if you take a line through our 23 side, which was, our best footy was competitive with the best teams. I think our team is a lot stronger. There's less gaps in it this year. So as long as we can get the best out of our players and we can go back to playing that attacking, positive brand of football and not that negative sideways crap that we have played at times, I reckon we're a massive chance at top 8. And who knows whether we can push into the 4. But I think we've just got to make the most of the first few games because we've got a pretty easy draw if we play to our ability, where we can probably get a few wins early and then build momentum and confidence. And once you're confident and playing well, anything can happen. So, yeah. What about you, boss?
Yeah, I think it's all up to the coach, to be honest. I think there's absolutely no excuses left. The Crows have built up the support around him. They've beefed up in just about every area off field to support. I think the recruiting staff have done their job. List management staff have done their job. And I think what's going to be key, like you said, Brownie, if he gets too cute with it and he serves up this defensive crap or whatever to try and minimise the opposition's score, I think we're going to fall in a heap. And I think he's got a team that could play with a lot of flair and could be a high-scoring team. We saw that in 23. We were the most efficient going forward in terms of scores off forward 50 entries, and that's because of the firepower that you only have to look at that screen to see the firepower that we've got there, not to mention coming off the wings and through the middle. So to me, we've got a final 8 spot on the offering, and it will be the coach's fault if we don't make it, in my opinion, barring injuries, of course.
And I think you have made some excellent points there, Fian. It isn't just the fact that we have improved our playing list. The off-the-field support that he's been given, Percy with a coaching director to assist him, to talk to him, and somebody who's actually come from a premiership team. So, it's somebody that isn't just a nobody. It's somebody who knows what it's all about. And then on top of that, we've got a coaching director now that we've been trying to get hold of for a long, long time. So, it's the support behind him is huge. It's huge. And the only one that can let us down now, as you said, is him. So really, it's a coaching
group, but he heads it up. It's a coaching group. It's probably the only area that's been stagnant over the last few years, and I think that they've been given as much support as possible, Mac. And if we don't, obviously at the end of the day, they don't kick the ball, they don't mark the ball, they don't kick goals. But I'm going to be very interested to see the style of play that we play, particularly in the first round at home against an undermanned, undersized St Kilda. We should smash them. We should actually destroy them.
Yes,
there's no reason why we shouldn't destroy St Kilda, and I guess that's where I'll finish off this conversation with your predictions for round 1. And no disrespect to St Kilda in its first round of the season, it always throws up variables, but this team, compared to the potential team that St Kilda are going to put out, we should win at home by 10 goals at least, in my opinion. Mac?
Well, actually, you've outdone me this time, Fee. I'm always an optimist. I was going to say 45 plus. I think we will win, and by 45 plus. So over to you, big man.
I'm going to put it out there. Fiend, have you ever, or any of you guys, have you had at all a thought about how you would feel and what would happen if we actually lose this game?
I'll be shattered. Absolutely shattered, mate. I can tell you, I would be shattered.
Because a massive step backwards.
It would be a massive step backwards. St Kilda have got so many key players out, and they weren't a great team. Weren't a great team anyhow. So and they've gone backwards. And so if we actually lose to this mob, we lost to this mob. Oh look, somebody get the rope and we'll go and get hold. We'll leech the coach. We'd have to.
It certainly puts some pressure on him. Certainly puts some pressure on him. That's for sure.
I think that it's one of those things where, like, you listen to the way we're talking right now. The players would have to, like, obviously, I don't know if they listen to this, but the noise around them is going to be that they're expected to win and probably win well, and that's not easy to deal with, that expectation, because at the other end of things, St Kilda, they've come off a terrible loss to Port Adelaide. They're undermanned. They would almost be feeling like it's nothing to lose with this game. So
I feel like you're dancing around your prediction, big man. What's your prediction?
I should. Well, I think we'll win. I don't know if it's going to be 10 goals. I think that's pretty generous. I'm going to give it somewhere between 25 and 30 points. But I'm just wondering, like, how this city's going to react if we actually lose this game, because Ross Lyon's a good coach and you never know what can happen.
Brownie.
Yeah. Oh, I'm not as bullish as you, Rob. I reckon they're probably only going to win by 9 goals.
You're always so pessimistic, mate. Bloody hell.
You know. Well, I have to see it. That's all.
Hey, Fane,
I was
going to say, did we actually
ban, but bloody hell.
Did we actually come to a conclusion on who was going to be the sub for that best 23?
Oh, I thought it was Nat Curvis, mate.
Was it Nank?
Yeah, I think we sort of didn't actually make a decision, but I think we sort of were heading that way.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, he was the only one left.
Well, no, it could have been Scholl.
We're not going back down this road again. We bloody left that. Thanks, big man. You're as bad as Matt.
Sorry,
you got to stick to the bloody format. Shit. Oh.
Good on you, mate.
Brownie, you got any more red wine? Because I need some.
I'm just about to crack one, don't worry.
Oh, Jesus. Look, it's been fun. A lot of fun after a bit of a slow start. A few experiments this week, four on the panel, which has been fantastic, and hopefully you guys listening have enjoyed the banter, and of course over the course of the next few weeks it'll flow a bit more freely, of course, and people will remember how to use their bloody technology. We won't start at 10 to 9. Macca.
Sorry about that.
So just one more thing to do before we go. Now, just a reminder, every month we have a giveaway on our Discord. You need to be part of our Discord community in order to enter. It's very easy. The Discord links are in all our socials, and I'll put it in the description. But every month we get something from the club, or we put up some merch or something like that. And this month we had a double general admission pass to round 1. And surprisingly, we only had 4 people enter. So you guys must already have tickets. So we will draw that now. So I've put in the 4 names there: Newman, Scallop, Josh and Johnny. And I'm going to click the wheel to spin it. And the winner is Josh. So whoever Josh was, if you can send me a message in chat, and I'll organise those tickets to be emailed out to you. And congratulations, and enjoy round 1 in general admission. Of course, what we do ask people when they do win tickets off us and go to the football, send us a picture. Give us a selfie so that we can post it on our socials, because that's always good. All right. As I said, don't forget the Fantasy League is still open. Tipping Comp is still open. Pardon me. There's plenty of ways to support Crowcast. You can become a YouTube member for, I think it's $5 a month. You get some pre-recorded stuff free, like the Josh Worrell interview for the members that we already had. We got those a little bit early, so early access, I should say, to pre-recorded stuff. And how else? There's also a link in our YouTube to just buy us a coffee, or the PayPal link there if you want to donate some money. There's also super thanks if you're watching this after the event. You just click the super thanks button. There's 1,000 ways to support Crowcast, and whilst everything that we do is free, anything that we receive is we're very grateful for, because it helps us keep the mice on the turnstile. So, look, on the treadmill, I should say. Speaking of treadmills, I'm just about bloody worn out dealing with you blokes. So, Macca, Brownie, nice to have you on board. Big man, nice to have you on board.
Thanks, mate.
Thanks to everyone who watched. Don't forget to subscribe. It really does help us if you do subscribe to the channel. And we will have our preview show. Now, it's a Sunday game, so our pre-recorded preview show will be up for YouTube members on Friday night, and up for the general public on Saturday in time for Sunday's game. So keep an eye out for that. Have a safe week, everybody. Thanks for sticking with us. We really appreciate it. Good night, and we'll see you next week.
Yeah, not all.
See you, boys.